Hey everybody, Dr. Jared Skowron from Spectrum Awakening. Gonna have a Facebook Live today about sensory issues and sensory processing disorders and those kids who are sensory seekers and those kids who have problems with light touch or don't like their hair cut, don't like their nails clipped, kids who cover their ears, and even picky eaters. Okay, picky eating is a sensory symptom because I don't like the taste, I don't like the flavors, I don't like the texture of so many different things, and that brings so many of our kids having a very limited diet because they don't like all these other foods, how they feel, how they taste, what colors they are. These are all symptoms of sensory issues, and I know most of our kids on the autism spectrum have some type of sensory problem, whether they don't like the light touch, they don't like the ears, they are the picky eater, even toe walking. You know, toe walking, in my opinion, is a sensory symptom because it feels different for them to walk on their toes than to walk on their heels or their entire feet. So sensory problems are obviously all over the map for a lot of different people, but luckily we've got answers and we've got scientific research to back up those answers for you guys, because I know when we are able to help treat different sensory symptoms, you know, kind of our average day-to-day quality of life does get better. They're not so worried about certain clothes. They're not always covering their ears. You're not always doing the deep massages for them. You're not always, using the vests or the weighted blankets or those type of things, or doing the brushing, because we want to help them feel more comfortable. So before we get into it and all of our research, I'd like to do two things. Number one, give you guys the coupon for the weekend. So the coupon for the weekend is Sensory20. Sensory20 will get you 20% off anything on our website, spectrumawakening.com. All of the supplements, all of the lab work, 20% off everything except for our supplement bundles, because our supplement bundles are already 25% off or more. That expires Sunday, May 2nd. If you are interested in a telemedicine appointment with me, call this number. If you have a question about your order, email that email. It's falling down. The paper's falling down. Okay. Number two, want to quickly talk about Facebook stars. If you have Facebook stars, you can donate them to a Facebook Live speaker. If you'd like to donate your Facebook stars to us, we are taking 100% of those donations and giving them to TACA and Autism Hope Alliance. All right, so let's get into the sensory, what is a sensory problem and how that occurs in the body? Well, what I want you to think about, I want you to put yourself imagine something for me. Imagine you're asleep, okay? And all of a sudden you hear a window break in your house. It shatters, okay? What's gonna happen? You are gonna be up, you are gonna be on edge, you are gonna be adrenaline, you're gonna be fight or flight. And all of a sudden, your senses will be heightened. You'll be able to hear and listen for things, small noises you don't normally hear and listen to, okay? You're gonna be very sensitive to any kind of light touch. We hear a noise at night, we wake up, and I touch my wife, and she's like, stop touching me, because we are so sensitive. This, in my opinion, is what the kids are feeling. The kids are very hypersensitive, very on edge, and we can relate to that because we've had these kind of experiences before where we are in a place of fight or flight, and everything is higher sensory, looking, listening for everything and anything. So that's kind of the feeling that comes behind these sensory issues, where every little thing is up to 11. For all you Spinal Tap fans, my sensory function is up to 11, which basically means any little thing for them is huge, while that same little thing for us would be normal. All right, so think of it as that they're hearing things, everything's louder, everything's bigger, everything's more, whether it's taste or touch or hearing or smells or eye contact. Even lack of eye contact is a sensory symptom, because if I look at you in your face, there's a lot going on in the face. I've got to process all that. If I look somewhere else, if I look at that table over there, well, that's real boring table. That's not doing anything. There's less sensory input. So it's calmer and it's safer. So that's kind of the feeling behind these sensory issues. Now, how does that occur in the body? Okay? That occurs in the body because the senses travel along our nervous system, okay? We feel something, hear something, touch something, eat something, whatever. Signals go along those nerves from the outside world to our brain, and we register them, okay? Those signals are electricity, period, okay? It's electrons, electricity carrying that signal. Sometimes that signal can go fast. Sometimes that signal can go slow. Sometimes that signal is easily triggered. Sometimes that signal is difficult to trigger. The easeability to trigger the signal to go from the outside world up to the brain is controlled by different chemicals of the brain that control the easeability. They don't really control the speed. I said speed before. The speed is pretty much consistent on how quick our nerve fires, but how often that nerve fires, how many signals go to the brain from a stimulus. So let's say I hit myself, okay? How many signals went to my brain? Okay, is it 10? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? I don't know. But people who are more hypersensitive, if I just sent 10 signals, a hypersensitive person may have sent 100 signals. So it's louder for them, okay? So that, we want to make sure we're bringing balance to normal levels of chemicals called brain chemicals or neurotransmitters that basically control this, all right? And that can come from different toxins. Why this happens, it can also come from different genetics. So I'm gonna put on, cheaters on, all of us over 40, and I'm gonna start looking at some genetics. So this is a research study, just came out December 2019, Mechanisms of Sensory Phenotypes in Autism, Current Understanding and Direction for Future Research. They actually highlighted 3 different genes that you could have genetic SNP problems with. One's called SHANK3. We see a lot of this. If any of you have done your whole exome sequence and had SHANK mutations, there's a lot of these, not just SHANK3, but other SHANK numbers. I just like saying SHANK. But this is something we see a lot. This actually causes changes to impaired heat and cold sensitivity. So feeling hot and feeling cold are different because of the SHANK gene. There's another gene here called MECP2. This one has to do control of mechanical sensitivity. So how does the skin or the eardrum or the mouth and the tongue need to be physically touched in order to send a signal? So that's kind of like external sensing is a genetic thing. And then last but not least, this is the one we work on. This is a gene combination of MECP2, which is up here, along with GABRB3. GABRB3 is a gene for GABA. We're going to be talking about GABA a lot today. GABA is a protein. It's an amino acid that directly affects certain receptors in the brain and in the nervous system. GABA is very calming, it's very relaxing, it's very anti-anxiety. So you have a genetic problem with GABA, all of a sudden it's going to be more difficult to be calm. And this has to do with, again, the tactile sensitivity, anxiety, and decreased social behavior. So this GABA gene, again, causes tactile sensitivity problems, more anxiety, and less social behavior. And less social behavior is because of the anxiety. So how intriguing that this GABA gene will affect these things. So let's move on in our research, okay? Here we've got a research study just from July last year, concentrations of GABA and glutamate with autism. And as this says, GABA and glutamate, GABA is the main inhibitory and glutamate is the main excitatory neurotransmitters, and their balanced interaction is necessary for neural function. Well, what does that mean? Basically means that there are 2 different brain chemicals that are the most calming and the most agitating. The most calming is GABA, okay? The most agitating is glutamate, all right? Glutamate like monosodium glutamate, MSG, okay? So we want a balance in these. It's like driving a car, okay? I need accelerators and I need brakes so I can drive 65 or whatever I'm driving. I need that balance of accelerator and brake, okay? Can't have all of one, can't have all of the other, or there's gonna be problems. So it's all about balance. Hassan just said, is eating paint or cement a sensory problem? No, I think you've got a big case of pica or pica there. You may want a mineral supplement. I think that's going to help you best. Oh, Emily, I'm going to get to the Q&A later, but Emily has a diagnosis of DDX3X syndrome. We've actually had 2 or 3 of those, so that's not too uncommon. All right, let's get back to things. Who's got ADHD tangents today? That would be me. Tactile hypersensitivity and GABA concentration in the sensory motor cortex, or the part of the brain that deals with sensories, in people with autism. So this study highlighted the key role of GABA in tactile sensitivity and suggests that atypical GABA modulation contributes to the tactile hypersensitivity in autism, and that GABA levels play a key role in tactile hypersensitivity in autism. Let's keep going. Sensory overresponsivity is related to GABA inhibition in this part of the brain. I'm not even going to pretend to say all these big Greek words. Sensory overresponsivity, basically hypersensitivity, okay? GABA and associated network connectivity in the autism group highlight the potential role of GABA as a mechanism underlying the individual differences in these sensory responsivities. Someone needs a little more coffee today, huh? All right, so let's keep going, all right? Another study here, abnormal behaviors and altered GABA signaling in animal study model of autism. Our findings indicate that impaired GABA systems could be a major etiological factor occurring in the brain and the different parts of the brain in human cases of autism, suggesting enhancement of GABA signaling would be a promising therapeutic target. All right, so we know there's genes that control GABA. We know that GABA, based on this research, how that brain chemical GABA affects sensory feeling, how we feel things, okay? And if we don't have enough GABA, and again, GABA is the brake, GABA is calming. If we don't have GABA, all we have is the stimulant. All we have is go, go, go. We have the accelerator, nothing that calms us. So when we do feel something sensory, it's going to be a lot of stimulation, more than you and I feel, because it's all accelerator. Okay? So what if we just gave GABA? GABA is one of the rare brain chemicals where it's actually just an amino acid. It's actually a protein. Everything else, like dopamine and serotonin, they're made of proteins, but there are conversions that need to occur. So what if we just gave GABA? Wouldn't that be nice? Hold on. Here's a double-blind, placebo-controlled study using a tea that contains GABA and theanine in children diagnosed with autism. So they gave a tea instead of a supplement. I like supplements better. They gave a tea that had high GABA and high theanine. Theanine's another amino acid that works similarly to GABA, a little different, but similar. They had significant improvement in manual dexterity, large individual improvements in balance and sensory responsivity, okay? So these results suggest that sensory motor abilities, anxiety levels, and other symptoms of children with autism can benefit from the administration of GABA. Again, this research study used tea, but you can just use a GABA supplement, or you can drink the tea, or you can do both, okay? So all of a sudden, we've got research that shows the genetic predispositions, the alterations in this GABA brake of the nervous system, not just the brain and anxiety, but also the peripheral nervous system of feeling. And then we've got an actual double-blind placebo-controlled treatment trial on GABA combined with theanine. So that is one way that we can really make sure that we're helping these sensitive issues. Last but not least, sorry, I get caught up reading questions as they come up. Last thing, besides the whole GABA, another research study that popped up for us was fish oil, basically. Omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid supplementation on the sensory processing in toddlers with autism. And this showed that sensory processing sections, including auditory, vestibular, tactile, oral sensory, that's your taste issues, visual, and other sensory processing quadrants, were improved with an omega fish oil or a vegan omega supplement. So pretty cool that we got a lot of research really focusing on brain chemistry, okay? Signals, sensory issues are signals from the outside world to the brain. Those signals can be delivered quickly or slowly or at a normal speed. So if we are very hypersensitive to things, we're picky eaters, we don't like loud noises, haircuts, nail clips, etc. Okay, you're doing the weighted vest, you're doing the weighted blankets, you're doing the massages, you're doing the skin brushing. We need to add more brake. We need to slow things down. Now, I'm not talking about mental function. I'm talking about sensory function. It's all about the GABA, okay? Now, GABA is a very popular supplement over the counter. We've got GABA in a couple of our supplements, which I'll show you, but you can just go on over the counter and get GABA, okay? But you've got to have the right dose. And in my opinion, dosing is too minimal. And I've talked to a lot of families and patients in my clinic who say, oh yeah, we use GABA and we use this dose. I'm like, no. That's like licking an aspirin for a headache. You need higher doses, all right? So in our Power and Focus, okay, Power and Focus is our #1 formula. We have 750 milligrams of GABA. That's where I think you should start. 750 milligrams, maybe 1,000 milligrams twice a day is really going to help with this sensory function. So I think that's a great place to start. Somebody just asked, is there an age limit? No, there's not an age limit because A, this is protein. You're going to feed a kid protein. You're going to feed a baby protein. And our brains are already wired to use GABA, okay, from our foods. So the other one we have it in is our Calm and Cool. Now, Calm and Cool has GABA at a lower dose and also has theanine. all right? And theanine was part of that oolong tea study. We also have theanine in our Power and Focus, okay? More of the GABA and the theanine in Power and Focus than in the Common Cool, but those are the two things we have it in. And you can also get this stuff over the counter. But again, I would give doses between 500 and 1,000 milligrams per dose, maybe twice a day, maybe even 3 times a day. If it's working, this is what you're gonna see. You're gonna see better sensory function, better able to handle the senses from the outside, the haircuts, the nail clips, the eating, expand the picky eaters. I can eat more things. It's gonna take time. It's not gonna happen overnight. But if you practice with more foods with them, or at least give them GABA before you do their food therapy, okay? They might be more likely to try other things. So, and then of course, you want to get on an omega supplement for them. So you know from us, we've got a few different omega supplements. We have a vegan gummy that you can use. Kids like gummies and kids are vegan. We got a vegan gummy. And we also have a fish oil liquid that tastes like bubble gum. Doesn't taste like fish, which is cool because I know the taste issues with that are definitely an issue. All right, so that's kind of a summary. It was quick, but it was down and dirty. You know, the research that we found is very targeted, which is nice. So I'm gonna switch over to our live Q&A, but again, our summary is hypersensory is super common in autism, and it can affect our day-to-day life, all right? So what you should do is try GABA. Either GABA is combined in our supplements or GABA over the counter, along with some fish oil, omega-3, omega-6s to calm down the sensory function. And hopefully you'll get a better quality of life day to day. And for those kids who are picky eaters, they may start to try other foods that you put in front of them. That's our goal. That's what we want to try to do.